Okay. Morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'll call this meeting to order. First order of business is the disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, the previous minutes, was there any errors or omissions? Mover and seconder for the minutes, and Jones. Martin, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchbach.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Under petitions and presentations, the deputy warden has requested a presentation. So, Duncan?
Okay. Now, maybe I'll go back here. Good morning, Council. Can you think of anything else, Dave, that can make a year go faster than sitting up in that seat?
It seems like you get elected and then all of a sudden you're at your last meeting.
Exactly. You just barely get the seat warm and it's time to move on. So certainly it's been a different year all the way around for you as warden, and you know, we're not in a position to give you the warden's banquet that happens this year. That's very, very unfortunate because that again is part and parcel of the warden experience. So I do have some words on behalf of council that I want to relay to you. Goes as follows. As deputy warden, it is my pleasure to acknowledge the work of Warden David Manel in his last meeting as warden. On behalf of the Elgin County Council, thank you for leading council through a very unusual and challenging year. As a result of the pandemic, we have missed out on a number of events that we all look forward to, including the Warden's Golf Tournament, the Warden's Banquet, and many other in-person meetings. This year, we have all relied on technologies to bring us together at a time when the pandemic was keeping us apart. Last year, and a result of the pandemic, Warden Manel has faced a unique challenges, difficult decisions and long hours. He's rose to the occasion while respecting as time-honored traditions of the office as he could. The warden has earned the right to be proud of what council has accomplished, especially his work with county council to ensure the health and safety of our staff and our community. As council, we have been resourceful, resilient, creative, and compassionate through this pandemic. We saw the warden bring our communities together through Joint Emergency Operations Center. We benefited from a strategic alignment of emergency plans with our local and neighboring communities. This sense of unity and common purpose will allow Elgin County to continue to stand strong in the fight against COVID-19. Also under the warden's leadership, we have quickly pivoted and shifted organizational resources, redeploying staff and redirecting resources to critical service areas. Our swift response has ensured that the county maintained a strong financial position through these unprecedented times. Pandemic aside, under Warden Manel's leadership, work has progressed quickly on the King George Lift Bridge, the Port Bruce Replacement Bridge, and Terrace Lodge redevelopment. The warden has ensured that our community has been at the center of our decision-making, and under his leadership, council guided staff through a municipal service delivery review. Planning we do today will help create a sustainable, livable future in a municipality that will continue to change over time. So on behalf of my fellow councilors, I would like to thank you, Dave, for leading us through this very challenging year. We are on the right track, and the future in Elgin is bright as we serve Elgin, grow Elgin, and invest Elgin. So Dave, it's certainly been an honor to be your deputy warden for this year of 2020, and looking forward to you sitting around the table and your expertise continuing on for the rest of this term of council.
Thank you so much for those comments. Thank you, Duncan. Appreciate that. I do have some comments of myself in the same line. So this is my last opportunity to chair county council as the warden. I want to take this opportunity to express my gratitude to all members of county council for their advice and cooperation during these very trying times. Last December, I knew we were going to have a busy year with 2 major bridges to build, a terrace lodge redevelopment, and an extensive strategic plan to develop. In February, we were fortunate to fund a service delivery review, and I thought, well, we can pull together and get through this one. Then COVID arrived in March like a bombshell. I'm proud of how council has adapted so quickly to continue to provide service to our residents in a safe and responsible manner. Our dedicated staff has performed extremely well under challenging conditions, and I cannot thank you all enough for your efforts. One staff member that I wish to mention is our CAO, Julie. There was no playbook how to handle COVID safely and efficiently, but she figured it out. We'd not be on schedule without Julie's hard work, and continually amazed at what she can accomplish in a short order. Julie, thank you so much. And thank you all for a very exciting and successful year. And as you can see, I passed out some maple syrup from our farm as well. There's gift package on the way out, so don't forget to take those as well. So thank you all once again for everything you've done. I appreciate it. Now, Dominique?
Sure, if I may, Mr. Warden, last year at the banquet, I had the honor with Councillor French to recognize all the spouses of elected officials, and I thought it would be appropriate to do the same again this year because it's been a special year for them too. Not only did we have more meetings, we never left home. And we robbed them of all the alone time that they're used to. And in addition, I don't think they had signed up for that, but a lot of our spouses became official members of the IT, the support team. I want to give a special shout out to Judy and thank her for knowing where the camera button is, for allowing you to be on Zoom calls. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And certainly, I'm the first to admit my technology is very limited, but I do depend on Judy for a lot of things. I had something in my iPad the other day. I couldn't get rid of the damn thing. And finally I said, you look after this. And she pushed things and all of a sudden it disappeared. Anyway, thanks for those comments. All right, we still have business to do. So need a motion to move into committee of the whole, please. Marks, Fail, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchbach.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. So we'll move into reports. The first report is the our connectivity committee. Tom?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. And before I start, I want to offer my congratulations. It's been an extraordinary year, but you did a fine job.
Thanks, Tom.
This committee or report is here. I guess I could read it word by word, but I won't. We have a lot. It's amazing when you read the list of reports, how busy we have been and the accomplishments. This one, connectivity, special to me. If you have lousy internet, and several of us do, the frustrations, and look around, we've all had those moments where it freezes and you hear someone, it sounds like they're talking underwater, etc. And then the improvements and the benefits to the whole community when we finish and succeed in this, and we will. But I won't go on. It's the report is there. I'll try to answer any questions if you have any, but have to thank staff. We've already had 6 meetings, a forum coming up. Staff have pulled together and doing their best, and I'm so proud and obviously very enthusiastic about it, as our committee is. So happy to answer any questions, but just very pleased with the progress we've made.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Questions for Tom on connectivity? I know we're moving forward, and I think that's the attenders close this month, right, Tom, for the SWIFT program?
Yeah, well, yes, end of year. If not, like, it's a matter of weeks and days, so it's very close.
We're moving forward. Thank you. Question, Duncan?
Just one thing, Mr. Warden. I was very remiss in this. Julie presented this. I thought it was a gift for the deputy warden, but for the warden, so, before I forget and take it home, on behalf of county council, thank you very much, and we'll.
Thank you, Duncan. Thank you, Julie. So we need a mover and second to receive and file. Jones, Jagger, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French. Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Next, we have the Community and Safety and Wellbeing Committee. Sally, are you doing that report?
I don't know, but I'm quite willing to. It has been moving along quite well. I do want to take this opportunity too, Dave, to thank you for your participation in that and wish you all the best. I have very much appreciated your leadership this year. Yeah, the committee have met. We've gone out to the public. I think everything's pretty well outlined there. We're moving right along and that's important. Hopefully we'll be able to pull that all together shortly. So that's our hope. So if anyone has any questions, I know Mary's on as well. And Mary, if there's something you want to say, go ahead.
Anything to add? Anything to add?
Thank you, Warden Manel. Yeah, just, I guess Sally's kind of covered the whole thing, but it's just been very trying with COVID. So we're behind schedule a bit, but the one person I really want to thank is Jennifer Kirkham. She's been amazing and she's been leading us through this. And so I think there's going to be a lot of good outcomes from this group. And
Okay.
also, Dave, thank you so much for all your hard work the past year. It's been a tough year for everyone. So we really appreciate your leadership.
Thank you, Mary. Any questions for either Mary or Sally? Being none, we need a mover and second to receive and file their report. Moved by Martin, second. Ketchba, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Next, we have Environmental Advisory Committee, Grant.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Well, the report's before you. It's been a very short report since we've only had 2 meetings and we'll have our 3rd meeting next week. What I can say is we have a very enthusiastic, diverse group with lots of ideas. I know our 2nd meeting where we had a bit of a brainstorming session where we wanted to go, it was, there was a lot of ideas on the table and we're going to have to shortlist that myriad of ideas. They're all good ideas, but staff only has so much time and we have to make sure Julie and the girls don't get swamped. So it's going to be a very exciting year, I think, coming up for the committee. We had our first job put to us by the county and there's a letter in the, I think, in the package and correspondence from the committee. So that was our first job that we took on. I'm sure if Sally has anything to add, but it's going to be interesting, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Questions for Grant on his committee? Seeing none, mover and second to receive and file. Marks, Jones, all in favor?
Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. And Grant, you're doing the Health Recruitment Partnership?
Thank you, Dave. Health recruitment has been very rewarding for me, especially. It's something that I really enjoy doing each month. Well, we did have a bit of a break there for about 6 months, but we're back at it. Our recruiter, Cheryl Fish, does an amazing job even through COVID. She's able to reach out and do an amazing job for us. We still look to support the physicians we have and recruit more physicians. It's county puts in about $57,000 a year, and I think it's well worth it. It's definitely benefiting our community, especially in the rural areas, making sure our health teams are fully supported with the right number of doctors. And this is one of those groups that can't say enough good things about.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Questions for Grant? Seeing none, mover and seconder to receive and file his report. Ketchabah, Martin, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks. Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Ed, you're doing the Rural Initiatives and Planning Advisory Committee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden, and I would simply like to add to the chorus around the room to express a sincere thank you for your leadership this last year
Appreciate that.
and your participation, particularly on this particular committee. The Rural Initiatives and Planning Advisory Committee had spent considerable time this year redoing the community grants programs, and they were launched in its new format this past September. I believe that the due date for applications was November 10th. We will be reviewing those applicants shortly, and I look forward to bringing a report to council under the new format. Hopefully, things work very smooth. The report is before you. If there are any specific questions, I would be happy to attempt to answer them.
Okay, thanks.
I will move the recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Questions for Ed on his report? Seeing none, we do have a move by Ketchabah, seconder Marks, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. And next we'll move on to Terrace Lodge redevelopment. Bob, you're doing that one?
Yes, sir, Mr. Warden, I am. We've shared this report with everybody and we've reiterated some of the things that you're already aware of. One I want to point out is we have changed the construction plans so that we will not have to interact with any of the residents for at least the first 12 months of construction, which seems to be rolling out okay with COVID. And hopefully with the vaccine out and that, we'll be in a safer position to hook up the buildings when we get the first one built. We will be getting all of our construction bids in December. Few questions and whatnot, that we'll have that before the committee very early in January. So far, we're not anticipating any extremely bad news, but we'll wait until we have the facts in front of us and the committee gets a chance to review that. Plan is still on track to actually break ground and do some work in January. And that'll be the first of 3 phases to get this job done. So I think all of us will be relieved when we actually put a shovel in the ground and start doing some real work on this thing and have some firm numbers in front of us. The most important thing out of my report is going to segue right into Dominique's report, the fundraising. There is going to be a campaign kickoff on December the 1st at 10 a.m. It's going to be outside. Everybody is invited, and Dominique will point that out to everyone. But we will have to social distance, obviously. So we're going to try and keep the gathering to a minimum and make it more of an event so that it can get proper publicity and they can get a good kickoff. When Dominique does a report, the report is correct, but when you come to financial implications, in her report, it says none, which is absolutely true from the county perspective. However, she's going to be raising an awful lot of money on our behalf. So I think we need to find a way to reflect that. And we also need to make sure that each and every one of us help her in any way possible to raise that awful lot of money. So with that, I'd be happy to move the report, answer any questions, and toss it over to the next report.
Thank you, Bob. Any questions for Bob on Terrace Lodge? I know we're moving forward and hopefully I think we're going to have a session in December 1st, right? Excellent. No questions. Moved by Purcell, seconder. Jiguer, all those in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. All right, Dominique, you're doing the fundraising committee.
Certainly, thank you, Mr. Warden, and thank you for setting the stage, Councillor Purcell, for this report.
Pleasure.
So the details of our activities are before you. In summary, it's been 14 months of committee coming together. So from formation to vision to execution, we are pretty much ready to kick off our campaign December 1st. So the contribution of staff and the committee has been above and beyond, particularly in light of the pandemic, and we decided to go forward anyway. We could not wait any longer. And the support of the community is there. And in fact, there was a lot of encouragement to say, just start now. So we are, as Councillor Purcell mentioned, December 1st is the kickoff. And this is a reminder that this is a county initiative. It's a county and in fact beyond county fundraising campaign, because we know the residents at Terrace Lodge are from across the county and beyond. So I definitely will count on all of your support. It's going to be a marathon. It's a campaign divided in 3 years, and we'll take it 1 year at a time. But your sustained support, communication, promotion, we will have good communication and media plan all throughout. So if you do your part, there are still positions on the committee. You're welcome anytime, or any members of your council are in your community. We're still accepting applications. So I look forward to working with you on this campaign. It's going to be very exciting.
Okay, thank you, Dominique. Questions for Dominique on the fundraising? Ed?
Yes, Mr. Warden, quick question to Councillor Jiguer. Where and when? Well, we know when,
Yes.
approximately.
So a specific
Details on the kickoff would.
Thank you.
If you would.
Yes, so through you, Mr. Gordon, and a specific invitation has been designed and will be sent this afternoon.
Thank you.
But it's December 1st at 10 o'clock. On the ground, there will be a sign unveiled and in front of Terrace Lodge on the grass. So there's lots of space.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dominique. Any other questions for Dominique on fundraising? None, mover and seconder for that report. Jones, Ketchiba, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes,
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. I have the next report, and this is in regard to the Budget Committee, which consists of myself and Mary French and Dominique and Ed. We've been meeting throughout the year. I was a little apprehensive of where the COVID was going to take us, and certainly the province has come up to, certainly in 2020 anyway, to help us out, and certainly it appears that Jim tells me we're in the black for taking over into 21. Certainly 21 may be an easy budget. 22 is going to be challenging, I think. At any rate, the staff has come to the plate and put us in a very good, solid financial position going forward. So I'll be happy to answer any questions on the report. Seeing none, mover and second for the financial report then. Jiguer and McPhail, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
yes,
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Okay, we'll go into staff reports. Natural Heritage, Nancy, are you doing that one?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Warden. Good morning, everyone, and through you, Warden, to members of council. I brought this report forward looking for some direction on how we can proceed with the natural heritage study. I understand the contentious nature of the study and realize that there were many concerns that were previously raised by council on this. The natural heritage systems are a recognized component of land use planning in Ontario. However, they can also be contentious, as the perception is that recognizing these natural heritage systems will somehow limit landowner rights. So before you, you have three possible recommendations on how to proceed with the natural heritage study. The first is that the public engagement and consultation on the natural heritage system study be included as part of the required meetings held for the official plan review that will be launching soon. And that following the official plan amendment information sessions, which we'll do as a part of this, the manager of planning will be directed to provide a summary back to council on any recommendations for next steps. The second potential option is that a public meeting and consultation on the natural heritage systems study be held in advance of the official plan review process. So there'd be a separate engagement public meeting provided at council. It would be hosted by council, and we could hear feedback from the public ahead of any official plan review process. And then after the engagement and consultation, we would bring a report back to council for recommendations and next steps. And the third and final option is that the Natural Heritage System study be referred back to the Rural Initiatives and Planning Advisory Committee to further review, and that the manager of planning then provide an update to County Council following the committee's review. So staff will support whatever council's desire is to engage the public, either through the general official plan review process or a dedicated public meeting, or if you'd like to send it back to the Rural Planning Initiatives Committee. So I'm open and available for any questions.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Sally?
Yes, Nancy, thank you for that report. And I very much appreciate how you tried to answer some of the concerns concerning farming, that this does not impact farming. It's strictly planning. And already our woodlands bylaw restricts the woodlands anyway. So I very much appreciate it. And I certainly would support number one, that the public meeting be part of the official plan amendment when that is done, because it is just it's a piece of information to go in the official plan. So I would very much support number one, and I'd be happy to move that.
Okay, any other comments? Grant?
Thank you, Ms. Ward. Yeah, I concur with Sally, Councilor Martin. There seems to be a lot of misinformation out there about natural heritage, and I think it's just a matter of informing people exactly what it entails. Obviously, the farming industry is there's been a bit of an uproar. I know in my area about it. It's just a matter of informing people exactly what it is, and I would support option one as well.
Okay, thank you, Grant. Any other questions or comments? Duncan?
I guess, Mr. Warden, through you to Nancy, the official plan review, do we have a specific time that needs to be completed?
Through you, Mr. Warden, actually, I believe it should be started by now, but because of COVID, we did get a lot of leeway with respect to the province. I know they've asked when we are going to be initiating, and with any luck, we will be initiating soon. Part of the consideration, though, is obviously we have some money for the official plan review, which is currently in the budget for 2021. And we need those funds in order to be able to hire a consultant in order to do those population projections and land needs assessment. Which is a necessary component for the official plan review. So I have every intention to bring a report forward very shortly, which will kind of just lay out some of my proposals on how to conduct the official plan review. We'll actually need to have an official kickoff public meeting at council as per the statutory requirements of the Planning Act. With any luck, we can do that in the new year and advertise accordingly. So that's my hope right now in terms of timeline is getting something to council in the next month, just to give an overview of how I would like to roll it out, and then hopefully a public meeting to kick it off officially in the new year.
Well, that leads me up to my next question. You know, as we are, COVID is going to be with us for some time, and we're not really sure how restrictive that it's going to be. So I'm just curious as to what the vision is of these public meetings, both for the official plan and for the combined official plan and natural heritage study. How do we, what is the plan to accommodate the people that may have an interest regarding either one of these topics?
Through you, Mr. Chair, it's something I've actually been grappling with myself, because obviously planning process overall is a public engagement type of process, and to not really be able to fully engage the public and to have them come to meetings is very problematic. I think we're going to have to use a few tools, and I'm definitely going to be following up with IT about providing sort of more of an online meeting format to allow for people to attend. But also, we're going to have some components that will need to be in person, and we'll need to find facilities potentially where we can host these types of meetings. I know some of the lower tier municipalities have been hosting council meetings in arenas, things like that, that have a lot more space that allow for that social distancing. So we'll definitely have to be looking at these types of new places in order to host these types of meetings. So.
Okay, well, that's where I see a problem again when it's online. Certainly, there could be a lot of interest from residents across the county that don't have the ability to become online. So we have to have a combination of both online and in person. And that led me back to my first question: is as long as the province understands that, as it is a public process planning, that there's certainly some leniency shown by the province, fully understanding that we are under a tremendous amount of COVID restrictions, and it's very difficult to meet these deadlines with those restrictions. So, sometimes moving slow when you don't know which way to go is the best way to happen. So, looking forward to what your ultimate plan is as to how to move forward with this.
Okay, thank you, Duncan. And just in that line, we just recently did a policing review for Malahide Township, and we had correspondence right through the mail, online, and in person. So it was a fairly good turnout, and I think there is the possibility, it's not conventional that we're used to, but it still can be done in a reasonable fashion. So?
Just one thing that we have in Central Elgin too is that Let's Talk Central Elgin section where you can actually put the whole thing up there, and people can then respond to it, and it can be, I know it doesn't catch all those who don't have good internet. I'm one of them, I know. But it really has helped get a lot of people involved in various of our projects and to be able to find out and to respond. So I highly recommend this format that we have gone into. It's Bang the Table is the one, and our section is just called Let's Talk Central Elgin. And every project that we pursue, everything that we do is on there so that people can respond and react to it.
Through you, Mr. Warden, actually, Councillor Martin's brought up a very good point. A lot of the official plan reviews that I'm seeing that are currently ongoing have an excellent launch page or web page, which provides status of timeline, all the reports necessary, feedback tools, or the ability to comment on various aspects. So I definitely think that we will need to do something similar for the county in order to provide that launch pad that becomes the face of the official plan review that people know to go to for information and updates and all the reports that are necessary. And also we'll have that critical feedback tool on it to allow for people that are connected to be able to provide it that way.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Any other questions, Ed?
Just one thing to confirm, Mr. Warden. Nancy, it says within your report that these public engagement strategy will include meetings with the local municipalities. So I assume you're talking about public meetings in some of the larger facilities, trying to accommodate those who are not online or tech savvy. And I think the warden also mentioned about accepting the format of written and or, I guess a written comment if someone isn't able to attend those meetings. I think every avenue needs to be made available for public engagement, and it is a little more complex given the time that we live in currently. I'm just trying to confirm that that's still on the table and what you're thinking.
Absolutely. Through you, Mr. Warden. one of the key components of this will be to go to the individual municipalities and have a meeting that residents can provide feedback at in person. We just need to work with the municipalities to understand their ability to provide that kind of a meeting, socially distance, big enough space, and obviously schedule it accordingly. So that'll be something that hopefully we can roll out winter, spring of next year.
Okay, any other questions for Nancy? Seeing none, we do have a mover for option number 1, and then Grant, did you second that?
Yes, it is.
Second by Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. And Alan, you got the next one?
Yes, I do. Good morning. So when considering rejoining SCORE, one must look towards their activities and measurables over the past year or so to help determine if membership in SCORE is warranted. So the question becomes, what does one measure? The approach I took to measuring the success of SCORE, which SCORE has or hasn't over the past year, I looked at what they are doing in comparison with the original intent of why SCORE was created. SCORE was incorporated in 2010 to provide planning and coordination for regional issues, to implement regional economic development priorities, and to identify funding sources and to partner with other levels of government, and also to act as a regional catalyst for investment. So do SCORE's recent actions fall in line with the original intention or purpose of SCORE? Based on the information supplied by SCORE, one could argue that the original intent of SCORE is mostly being met. By helping to create the Southwest Community Transit Association and SCORE's leadership bringing parties together to deal with issues like short line rail, for example, SCORE is demonstrating their role in coordinating regional issues and partnering with various levels of government. Success can also be found in the work in sector development, mainly in agriculture and agri-food value-added processing. The regional work of SCORE undertakes complements, but does not replace the work of the county's Economic Development Department. Next year, the department will focus on supporting local business retention and expansion, facilitation of industrial, commercial, and land development, foreign direct investment and workforce, and quality of place marketing. These issues SCORE does not have involvement in, except, I will say, for workforce development, there is some crossover between SCORE's work and that of the department. It must also be stressed that SCORE is heavily involved in advocacy as part of the work on regional issues. However, the county is also well served by the Western Warrens Caucus. Now, since I wrote this report, there's a couple of issues that did come to light regarding some risks that county councillors should consider when considering rejoining SCORE. Now, I want to take you back to the year 2013, when the county did not renew their membership. During that time, there was 2 issues of governance that caused concern for county council at that time. The first, SCORE was supposed to give 90 days notice for any monetary requests prior to any draft budget approval. In 2013, SCORE did not abide by this and wanted an increase from $25,000 to $35,000 per year. This did create some conflict between the county and SCORE. And then we realized at that time that there is a provision in SCORE's bylaws where you must give 1 year's notice to resign from the organization. I recently checked, and that provision in the bylaw is still active. So if county council is interested in rejoining SCORE, one of the recommendations in the report basically alludes to having a 1-year trial period. If council were to undertake that recommendation, I would recommend that they would have to approach the SCORE board of directors to waive that provision of having that 1 year notice to resign from the organization if the council desires. So that is the report this morning. I'd be happy to answer any questions council may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. And my position has not changed. We decided in 2013 not to renew our membership. We considered at that time that it's a duplication of services. Basically, they're doing something very similar to what the Western Wardens and SWIA. They're basically knocking on the same doors as we are trying to advocate for our Southwestern Ontario. So my opinion is the $25,000 is far better spent at home rather than with SCORE. But I'll turn it up to questions or comments from the council. Grant?
I would agree with Warden Manel. We seconded Kate Burns to Western Wardens to do pretty much primarily exactly what is happening, proposed here. You have to, at some point, decide which way you're going. Western Wardens has, I think, changed a lot over the past few years and have a lot more focused initiatives now than they used to have. I think Alan spent a lot of time with Kate as well, developing what Western Wardens is doing. He's been very instrumental in what's happened there. I think, the $25,000, like you said, could be better spent at home in Alan's department. That's my opinion.
Okay, thanks, Grant. Sal?
I was really taking a much closer look at this when Alan brought this to us with a lot of the things that SCORE has been doing. And the one thing I never hear as a county councillor is what the Western Wardens are doing. I would like a report from them at least once a year. What have they done for us, et cetera, and what are we involved in? We hear occasionally about meetings you go to and things that happen, but I would appreciate a report. I would not be adverse to joining this for 1 year as long as they're willing to let us do it as a 1 year, as a, strictly a 1 year investment that we would tend them at the end of that year, whether we wish to continue. But I would be, in the overall scheme of things, I think the 25,000 might be worth it. I think they've done some very good work in the last year.
David?
Oh, just to kind of clarify in my own mind, I do recall seeing reports from Western Wardens probably on a quarterly basis as to what activities are going on as part of our agenda package, along with, SWIFT is there now. A number of these outside agencies, I've noticed are reporting on their activities, which is always fairly enlightening. So maybe are you not getting them?
I'm sorry, I remember, I know the SWIFT one, I've seen that. I can't recall others, but maybe they have been.
Through you, Mr. Warden. The Deputy Warden makes a great point, which is that the Western Wardens do provide us with a quarterly update, which is included in council as correspondence. Perhaps as additional follow-up and following today's review of all of the committee activities, the warden or myself could present a report at the December 10th meeting, just summarizing all of the Western Wardens activities over the course of 2020 as a year-end update. I think that's a great recommendation there.
As well as Kate's update on economic development as well. She's been very active.
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
Do you have a follow-up?
Just one other question. Maybe Julie can answer this, or Alan can answer it. What is our financial contribution to Western Wardens on a yearly basis? Know that?
Julie?
Through you, Mr. Warden, to members of council. Jim, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe our contribution dedicated to the economic development initiatives is about $5,000 a year.
I believe that's correct.
Dominique, you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I know that we've asked SCORE, and I think they have done a good job of presenting outcomes, so not just activities. So I would request that the report from the Wardens Caucus also include results as opposed to just the activities, which I tend to think the quarterly reports are more activity-based. But my recollection could be wrong, but if the December 10th report could be more comparable to what we asked of SCORE, it would allow us better comparison.
Okay, we can do that. Any other questions or comments? Ed?
Well, obviously, Mr. Warden, I'm going to be tilting at windmills here because I'm a good supporter and a great supporter of SCORE. BAM has stepped in when the county exited. I think, Mr. Smith has done a very good job of putting this report together and bringing the accomplishments of the organization forward, particularly during this difficult period. SCORE has been tremendously busy, and they have, I think, achieved a fair amount of material for this, not only this particular region, but for, setting the stage of further accomplishments down the road. The investment seems large, but when you compare with, yes, you've got a small token fee to the Western Wardens, but you're also funding a secondment at the moment too. So let's be realistic, you're paying a lot more than that at the moment. The whole concept of us trying to achieve what we want to do through a service delivery review, through our strategic plan, is predicated on us developing synergies with our neighbors. And that's what this is all about. This is a toolkit of developing synergies and moving issues forward. And I think the report highlights the Southwest Transportation Alliance as a really good example of an initiative that has found its feet and has moved forward and actually has buses on the roads. And to be quite honestly, and to be quite blunt, as a member of SCORE and with minimal investment from BAM, we have a bus. Do you?
Comment. Tom?
Mr. Warden?
Oh, I got Tom and then you, Mary.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't see that.
Go ahead, Tom.
I can support a one-year trial to get back in. I think I like to consider myself a team player. Just hearing that BAM is a part of this. I know through Southwestern Public Health, 2 years ago, we did a fair bit of grumbling. And we've had a lot of meetings over the last couple of years, and I'm starting to enjoy going to those meetings and feeling quite positive about public health, certainly the board members. And that's the benefit of getting to know them. And, it's nice to have neighbors spread out. And I know for a fact Thames Center sees a benefit of it. And I think the only way we know, we go back for a year and see at the end of a year, we say, yeah, I'm glad we did it or not. So I'd be open to investing for a year and see what happens. We've been away. I think there's benefit in giving it another shot.
Okay, thanks, Tom. Mary?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I'm in favor of us trying to, at least for a year, to go back with SCORE. And the reason I say that is we're in challenging times right now. We need to collaborate with other areas, be it, other counties, other municipalities. We're not a one-man army. We need to be working with other groups. And I think it's well worth our time and effort and money to try this, because it's going to be a long road back to success. And so we need all the help we can get, and we need to work with other whatever it is, communities or whatever. So I agree that we should be going back with SCORE for at least a year.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Duncan?
That being said, and going back to what Al had mentioned, this returning to SCORE, is that going to require special dispensation from the board to allow us to come back for a 1 year without being tied into never being able to get out of the vortex? And that I don't see anywhere in our report that has been negotiated and is part and parcel of the discussion as of yet. So I don't know what you think, Al. Are you going to go back to SCORE's board of direction and say, yes, Elgin County is interested with terms and conditions? Are you agreeable to them, and bring it back to us?
Through you, Mr. Warden. Yes, I had a conversation with the executive director of SCORE this morning, and she would have to bring our request forward to their board of directors so that they could waive that provision of giving the 1 year notice to resign. So yes, we would have to make that request to SCORE to waive that provision. And if they waive it, great. If not, then we couldn't do the 1 year.
So that being said, the report that's before us, is it maybe somewhat a little premature that some more work needs to be done on it to let council understand what is and what isn't possible?
What we could do, we could change one of the recommendations to be dependent upon the waiving of that provision. We could go that route.
Excuse me. Any other questions or comments? Ed?
Mr. Warden, I'm quite prepared to carry the argument to the scoreboard should council wish it to be done.
Okay. So the recommendation before you is to join SCORE on a 1 year trial period. And I guess obviously if they reject that, then Alan has to come back and we'll say whether we want to go to any further. So are we all clear on the recommendation as amended? Sally?
The one thing that we could do, so it didn't have to come back if we're concerned and we just want to do the 1 year, we could put right in there, we would do this providing they will allow that 1 year. If not, we will not renew our membership.
Yeah, and I think
That way we don't have to rediscuss it again.
I think that's what the amendment indicates.
Yes, the waiver of the 1 year notice of withdrawal.
Okay, everybody clear? Duncan?
Have you got that amendment in your mind, Julie, that you can read it back to us so we're...
Good, yes. Be it resolved that the November 17th, 2020 report titled South Central Ontario Region Membership submitted by General Manager of Economic Development be received and filed for information, and that Elgin County Council fund a one-time investment of $25,000 for membership in South Central Ontario Region Economic Development Corporation, subject to SCORE's willingness to waive the notice provision in the bylaw, which requires a 1 year notice, which requires 1 year notice to withdraw membership. And that a follow-up report be provided by the Economic Development General Manager in 2021.
Okay, I'm good with that.
We'll tidy it up.
Pardon me?
We'll tidy it up slightly.
Okay.
Just change up the language.
I would move that, Mr. Warden.
Moved by McPhail, seconder Martin.
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
No.
8-0, 8-1. The motion is carried.
Okay, thank you. Tim? You're muted, Jim, I think.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Warden. So the report before you is the financial update through the month of October, and you'll see that there's a favorable year-to-date performance of 1.4 million. The 1.4 million is the result of the prudent management of council during the COVID pandemic, as well as the warden pointed out earlier today, the significant financial support that we've received from the province. To date, we've received almost 1.3 million in Safe Restart funding or SRF funding, another 1.8 million in homes COVID funding, and for ambulances, we've received 400,000, just over 400,000 in pandemic pay. Homes makes up over 800,000 of that year-to-date performance, with over half of that being the result of favorable performance on the COVID funding that we've received. The homes were able to achieve that predominantly by the fact that council redeployed staff, non-home staff, to assist at the homes, and that resulted in $314,000 of savings. Based on the funding that we're receiving from the province right now, it does appear that the homes will be able, provided that funding does continue, and it appears that it will, that the homes will be able to manage through the pandemic crisis through 2021 without having to draw upon the SRF funding. In addition to the performance that the homes had on the COVID funding, there was also the $386,000 in non-COVID related performance. Again, a big piece of that is related to provincial funding. We received over $200,000 of incremental funds funding. There were increases higher than what we had planned in the budget. Beyond the homes, we also had $271,000 in library services performance. As you're all aware, that was the result of a shortage of work as the libraries were closed down. As well, economic development revised their programming for the year as a result of the pandemic and was able to cut $310,000 in costs. Now with the $1.4 million of performance, the next piece I'd like to speak with is what the potential uses are of that funding as we go into the 2021 10-year plan budgeting process. In addition to the 1.4 million of year-to-date performance, it also looks like we'll have about 900,000 of unspent money from the SRF funding that we've received. So the combined total of those two provides $2.3 million of what I'll say is an opportunity for council to consider as we go through these next 2-3 months of budget deliberations. As you'll see on page 108, there's a table there that breaks out some of the potential uses for the SRF funding. At this point in time, we certainly don't have a plan for how to use all of that money, but at the same time, I think we recognize that the pandemic is changing dramatically over this past month. If you were to ask me back in August where we would be today, it wouldn't be, I would give you a very different answer than what we're seeing right now. So as this pandemic progresses, it's going to be difficult to say what kind of challenges council is going to face in 2021. And so that list could grow substantially as we try and provide relief into the community. So the proposal then is that we keep this on the table for consideration during the 2021 budget deliberations. The 1.7 million, if we do not use that, could be used to reduce taxes in 2022. So it's not as if there's not an opportunity to make use of that money one way or the other. It'll either be, we'll be able to use that money to provide incremental services or cover costs related to the pandemic. If the pandemic situation does improve and we don't need that money, then that gives council an opportunity to provide some relief in the 2022 budget cycle. And I think the board did mention today that 2022 is likely to be a tough year for budgeting. And so that'll be it'll be good to have that reserve available if we don't need it. So the recommendations before you are that the report be received and filed, and that the 2001 budget deliberations include consideration of reserving the 2020 budgeted surplus, estimated at 1.4 million, together with the estimated safe restart funding carry forward of about 900,000 to address any potential 2021 COVID-related costs. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jim. And I agree with your report, Jim. We know in 2021 what the funding formula is from the province, but no guarantees on 2022. And I think that's what we have to be very cautious of. Questions for Jim?
Yeah, Mr. Warden, just to clarify, Jim, in your mind, what you're suggesting is turn this over to the budget committee so that they can deliberate a little more and then bring back a recommendation to council?
That is correct.
I can live with that.
Any other questions for Jim? Seeing none, moved and seconded for the report. Ketchabah, Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Brian, you're doing community safety zones?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden, through your county council. County of Elgin has 15 established community safety zones along county roads, predominantly within school zones. All community safety zones on Elgin County's roads have been established to date to be in effect between September to June, from Monday to Friday, and from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. to reflect the highest incidence of pedestrian movements, particularly to and from schools. While seemingly simple and obvious measures like community safety zones may provide greater social costs than benefits, they also present a false sense of security in the absence of proactive enforcement, and in some instances can decrease safety. In several recent cases, municipalities like Durham Region and Middlesex County have actually discontinued and removed their pre-established community safety zones. Any request for the establishment of a community safety zone should be accompanied by a study of vehicle speeds and an accident history in the area. In this regard, updating the county's community safety zone policy should include such requirements not currently reflected. Since data suggests that community safety zones are not effective in changing driver behavior or improving safety, and police enforcement in these areas have a short-term effect, it could be concluded that community safety zones are not the proper tool to be used to increase pedestrian safety. Further, the OPP are more experienced and have a better vision with regards to how to effectively utilize the resources to enforce traffic regulations on the traveling public. However, County Council could choose to amend the bylaw and make community safety zones enforceable at all times and provide notification of such change to the OPP's Elgin detachment. The recommendations are before you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Questions for Brian? Della?
Just one question through you, Mr. Warden. Brian, the times that community safety zones are in, there's no signs on them. So most people assume it's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I've had all kinds of people who live right in one of those zones assume that's what it is and are upset if they see anyone going faster. And I will say the one in front of Sparta Public School, which I drive through constantly, people do now go very slow. They never used to, but they do go much slower through there. So not that we have a lot of people crossing at Sparta Public School, but, or I should say Eva Circe Cote French Immersion School, the one in Sparta. So I'm just, because there are no signs saying the hours or the dates, everyone is assuming the 24-hour, as I say. So, you know, I don't see, if it's in the policy, somehow nobody seems to know that.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Warden, we can certainly look at installing tab signs to clarify that.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Certainly, but I mean, it's my experience, Brian, in Malahide, that our community safety zones are effective if there are lights, especially in front of the schools, that between drop off and pickup, when the lights are flashing, people do slow down. And once they're not flashing, it goes back to the normal speed. But definitely, it is far more effective if there's lights involved. And it's not a big expenditure. Ed?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Warden. I think I would concur with that. When you find these community safety zones in BAM, if they're in the villages, it doesn't make much difference. I mean, 40 kilometers versus 50 kilometers, most people are okay with it. But it's the ones out in the rural. And I think a light system out there would be more beneficial. As per notification of individuals of whether it's so many hours or 24 hours, no one knows the difference. I'm not so sure we should draw it to their attention. And I think staff are indicating that there might be a better, forgive the expression, a better mousetrap for traffic control down the road, which we haven't found yet. Maybe we should leave well enough for right now.
Any other questions or comments for Brian?
I think, Mr. Warden, I think the bottom line is the enforcement component of it. And for those of you that have ever drove in Florida, when the yellow flashing lights are on in front of a school, traffic almost comes to a dead stop. I mean, everybody is right down to 10 mile an hour as they're going through a school zone, and they're only doing that for the simple reason is there is probably a policeman there that if you're going faster than that,
you're going to pay the price. And so, without the enforcement component of it, it's a very, very difficult thing to give people the security that people are going to pay attention to signs, because we're inundated with signs everywhere. And do they carry a lot of weight? Not really. So how this is going to unfold, I think Councillor Ketchabah has got the right answer of enough alone for now and see where it takes us.
Okay. Any other questions or comments for Brian? There is a recommendation before you from staff. Mover and seconder for that.
Mr. Warden, I would move to receive and file only. Do we need to update the policy if we're going to leave well enough alone?
Brian?
Through you, Mr. Warden, I would suggest no, that wouldn't be required.
Okay. Tom?
I can second that.
Okay. So mover and seconder, Ketchabah and Marks, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French. Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Councillor Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Brian, you're doing the speed zones?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden, through you, County Council. The county's reduced speed zone bylaw was last consolidated in 2014 to include previous amendments. Since that time, 10 additional amendments to the bylaw have been adopted, and the bylaw requires an up-to-date consolidation as a housekeeping activity. The revised consolidated bylaw includes all amendments and is attached for council's information. Recommendations are before you. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Questions for Brian? Seeing none, mover, did you have a question? Moved by Jones, seconder. Martin, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Okay, who's doing the next one? Brian, are you or Michelle?
I am.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. The province recently announced their COVID-19 fall preparedness plan to help protect residents, caregivers, and staff in long-term care homes from future waves of COVID-19. As part of the plan, $61.4 million for minor capital repairs, renovations, and measures in homes to improve infection prevention and control, and more is being offered. This one-time formula-based funding administered through the Ministry of Long-Term Care is eligible for projects started after April 1st, 2020, earlier this year, and continuing right through to the deadline of March 31st, 2021. Staff are currently investigating and receiving quotes on a number of projects that would qualify for this program, including but not limited to touchless technologies such as faucets, door controls, lighting controls, outdoor visitor shelters, plexiglass partitions, etc. Of particular importance to note is the Elgin Manor's funding contribution is intended to fund emergency HVAC replacements that are underway as we speak at the home. The recommendations are before you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Questions for Brian on this one? Duncan?
Through you, Mr. Warden, this isn't a tremendous amount of money. Has there been any thought that out of the general budget that we would have to augment this money to accomplish some of the things that need to be done?
Through you, Mr. Warden, certainly this additional funding is of assistance. I don't disagree. It's not a tremendous amount of funding. However, it will assist us in implementing some additional infection prevention control measures. Further to that, another recent announcement was just made whereby a significant sum of money in excess of $360,000 is available, and a future report detailing plans for that will be tabled before council, and one of the projects being proposed is further investment in our homes.
Any other questions for Brian on this one? Seeing none, there is a recommendation. Mover and seconder for that. McPhail and Martin, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Brian, you're doing the capital program on long-term care?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warren, through to County Council. This past summer, the Ministry of Long-Term Care launched another $22.9 million new minor capital program to support long-term care home operators in maintaining their homes in an optimal state of repair while ensuring the safety of their residents. The new program, which replaces a structural compliance premium, is targeted to former recipients and other long-term care homes with beds not already receiving other forms of capital funding. Staff have identified and recommends that year one funding noted within the staff report for both Beaubrey Villa and Terrace Lodge be applied towards previously approved projects, which includes Beaubrey Villa's roof replacement, spa tub room upgrades, and Terrace Lodge's pool room drop ceiling replacements and asbestos abatement projects. Recommendations are before you. I'd be happy to answer the questions.
Thank you, Brian. Questions for Brian? Seeing none, mover and seconder for that report. Jones, Marks, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Julie, you're doing the next one on home internet?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to members of council, the purpose of this report is to encourage council to discuss and provide direction to include whether or not to include compensation for county councillors to offset internet costs. Now that council and all of councillors have the option of attending meetings, conferences, and seminars either in person or virtually, council may wish to reallocate mileage funds to support the cost of home internet. There are options included in the report, including adding a cellular package to councillors' devices. Councillors can receive a monthly or yearly stipend or home internet office, and it is noted in the report that should exclude personal use and cover business use only. Councillors can receive additional compensation on a per meeting basis at an amount to be determined by council, or council could forego providing any additional compensation or funds to support home office internet. The report also indicates that any compensation provided for a data plan or home internet is considered a taxable benefit by the federal government, and this would be included in your T4s. So if council wishes to support funding home internet expenses, it is recommended that revisions be made to council's policy for your approval at the December 10th meeting, and that any costs associated with a change to council compensation, if required, be considered by the budget committee and included in the 2021 draft budget. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Julie, for that report. This is largely to do with COVID, and my hope is that by this spring, that COVID will be a distant memory, and there'll be a vaccination where we don't have to worry about whether we want to attend in person or not. So I would be in favor of just leaving it as is, and I'd have a hard time asking our taxpayers to come up with some more money so we'd improve my home connectivity. Sally?
Yeah, I will say I received the cell phone connection for my device and I couldn't function without it because I have terrible internet connection where I live. And so I very much appreciate that. I mean, the other, if you were funding anything else, wouldn't matter because you can't get it. But this one I very much do appreciate. And I think, you know, I can't do Zoom and all that with video and audio, but I can usually do it with just audio. So I very much appreciate that, and been trying again. I've been looking into all kinds of things to see if there's any way I can get better internet, but it's not looking very good.
Dominique?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. So that's something I've been thinking about a lot. I disagree that this would be an added, depending how we shape the policy, that this would be an added expense, because if I don't come in person, I don't charge mileage. So right now there's actually a saving. And one suggestion I have is to just think of it as it's a mode of transportation. Either I need to transport myself with a car or I need to transport myself with data. Either way, I have to incur a cost. And I think it's been accepted policy that transporting myself by car should be compensated. So if we were to apply then the same principles, because mileage policies have been universally adopted as fair, effective, efficient, and trying not to create an administrative nightmare and unfairness, we could look at like a transportation framework is basically the equivalent of, we know that a Zoom meeting takes about 1 gig per hour. On average, depending on the plan, 1 gig is $5. So we could set up a policy where you are paid per hour. So it's $5 per hour per meeting, for each meeting. And by my calculation, that would still be a savings for most of us. So let's say it's a 3-hour meeting for $15 is still cheaper than what we currently recognize as acceptable mileage expense. I would also contend that beyond the pandemic, I think council has expressed interest in continuing hybrid solutions because of illness, potentially, of mobility issues, because of weather. And so I think it would be useful to have a policy in place.
Any other questions, Grant?
I agree with Dominique. I think this is an opportunity. I do believe that we're entering into a new era of how we're managing our meetings, and I think we need to recognize that. And a hybrid of mileage and internet usage, I think is very fair.
Okay, Tom?
When I think back 3-4 months, the journey to kind of get better internet at home, I changed 3 times, changed the location 3 times at home. I spent hours on the phone arguing with companies, kind of interviewing companies. I remember particularly the one day, because looking back now, it seems so simple, but I had internet on my phone, and we would assume we're at home using our regular internet and find out that it wasn't. One day, my daughter brought to my attention, we were so far over, and I spent hours getting a hold of Bell. We purchased more gigs. She kept, I saw it's not that much. Yeah, it was like $1,200. And thank God I had my daughter there, or I had a rude awakening when the bill come. And so we've monitored it. We've, along the way, we've finally upgraded the router. That has vastly improved. But the inconvenience the rest of the family had, because if I was on a Zoom call, everyone else had to stop everything. Like, God help them if they got on it, if it, it went down. But now I can go down, hide in the basement, and they can play their games and do the things that the normal families can do. So it's been quite a journey, but I'll tell you, there's been a lot of time and a lot of money expensed in this. Like, I think the router was $150 or whatnot, but we need it. And so you're right. If I woke up this morning and had a sniffle and I had head cold, we had the option to stay at home, because if I come in here with a cough, probably not going to be very popular, but I'm probably good enough to still participate. So I think, yeah, and as we all hope this virus is gone, but it sure won't be gone. The health unit has told us get used to these restrictions for a couple of years.
Duncan?
I too, like Sally, am one of the individuals that do have data on my device here. When Gordon, I would have been like Superman running to try to find a phone booth every time that I needed to call someone. And, I look at this organization and the fact that we do get a fairly reasonable corporate rate for our data. The simplicity of putting data on this device allows you to be in contact. Certainly it's portable. You can, if you're running late for a meeting, you can catch another meeting before you get back home. So this has worked really, really well for me. I don't know how I would be able to function without it. I do know that I do have a plan with Rogers. My wife and I have a plan with Rogers, and I think I think we have 30 gig of data. It's costing us around $300 a month for our phones, which, certainly it's another tool for the working within the county system and doing what needs to be done. I'm certainly prepared to pick up that cost, but the reality of it is that even though I have secured wireless, well, yeah, it's most of the time it's pretty good, but let's take Sunday morning. There was certainly a lot of snow between my antenna and the broadcasting antenna, and so I didn't have any internet. But this here is fairly reliable. And, again, it gives you the portability that wherever you are, you can quickly sign into a meeting and be available very easily. So I think this is an easy, simple way of doing, making everybody that has got a cell phone signal be part and parcel of everything that's going on at the county. And it doesn't take any accounting. It doesn't take any of that goes along with it. It's just a matter of fact that if it's a situation as a county councilor that you feel that that's the best way to go, contact Julie and say, I'd like to have data put on my device. And I think you'll find that you'll be quite happy with it.
Okay, Mr. Warden, I think if we could just ask Sally, who you have one of the data packages on your iPad, but you still aren't able to participate virtually using your device.
And that's
because of cell coverage?
Yes, cell coverage in Sparta, because of the ridge, the terminal moraine has made, cell coverage in certain parts of Sparta, you can't even get it. I'm lucky because I'm on a bit of a hill and so I can get it. But if I drive over to one of our museums, I can't get it there. So it's not universal by any means. You have to have good cell coverage or at least some cell coverage for it to work. I would suggest just one thought that I like Dominique's idea that if I come in person, I get paid mileage because I do come in person. I have no choice for most meetings. And that those who come virtually, such as Mary and Bob at the moment, today, they would get paid the $5 for each hour of the length of this meeting. So, I mean, I'm not even going to get that for mileage because I don't live that far away, but that's okay. I get compensated for the mileage that I actually incur. So I would say that that might be a very good system. I know I assume Duncan's probably gets a better cell phone connection because I have seen him virtually several times. So I know that he can get on there both ways. And I just freeze every time I try to do both. That's all.
Right.
I know my own experience at home. We do have a new provider for internet. It has helped some, but whether it does, like Duncan says, snow or rain does affect it immensely, plus volume. There for a while when we first started the WebEx meetings back in May or April, I guess, I was using my cell phone as a hotspot to provide internet to my iPad, which worked relatively well most of the time because our cell service in our area is not that great either. But there are options, but I think we need to allow counselors those options to participate from home when they need to.
Okay, we have 4 options before us, and I've heard support for number 1 and number 3. Which way do we want to go here, folks?
Warden Mennel.
Go ahead.
I'm going to make a comment. In my case, I have excellent coverage, and to be honest with you, I am in support of other counselors that have problems with their internet connections, etc. But in my case, I would forego. So even it doesn't matter which way we go with this. I don't want any compensation for working from home. That's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Julie?
To summarize, I think what we have heard is that it is imperative that counselors have the tools that they need in order to conduct business
Yep.
in person and remotely. And so I think council may wish to consider having reallocating mileage funds to a $5 per hour for virtual meeting or conference attendance. As well, I think it's important that all counselors have the option of also having a data package on their devices if they determine that it is necessary for them to conduct business. So I think that those elements should be included in the council policy and considered for your review and approval at the next meeting.
Okay, all right, so just receive and file today and then come up with a recommendation next meeting? Okay, everybody satisfied with that? Okay, so a motion to receive and file. Ketchabah, Jiguer, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Warden's election.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to members of council. It is recommended that council support a number of changes to procedural bylaw 1940 in order to enable the upcoming warden's election to be conducted in a hybrid format using a virtual anonymous poll. The report included in your agenda package today walks you through a number of suggested changes in format for the meeting, includes the following recommendations. That Elgin County Council endorse a COVID-safe procedure to elect the new warden for 2021, and that procedural adjustments detailed in the report be adopted for the election of 2021 warden, and that 2021 inaugural meeting to elect the 2021 warden be held as a hybrid, in-person and virtual meeting, and that secret ballot method for electing the warden be replaced with an online anonymous poll. And that additional nominations for the 2021 warden be delivered in writing to the CAO and clerk no later than 12 p.m. on Thursday, November 26th. And that the 2021 inaugural meeting to elect the warden take place on Tuesday, December the 8th at 7 p.m. And the following sections of procedural bylaw 1940 as amended by bylaw 2047, which allows for electronic participation of members of council, be temporarily amended as indicated in the report, section 9D, section 9F, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and that a bylaw detailing these changes be enacted. I know there's a lot of information here and it changes a process that the county has followed for decades. So if council has any questions or wishes to provide any feedback, we'd be happy to make any suggested changes at this time.
Okay, thank you, Julie, and certainly, like I said before, there's no roadmap for COVID, and so we'd have to invent ourselves all over again. Questions for Julie on the recommendations? Sally?
Just one, I'm assuming the in-person one will still be at the Masonic Hall, or will it be here?
We changed the format once we went into orange zone, knowing that we really have to restrict limitations of guests and attendees. So we brought it back to the council chambers. So the in-person attendees will attend the council chambers. And to be clear, everyone who is voting for warden will use an electronic poll. So we'll be running through that technology with you in the coming weeks to make sure that you're familiar with the poll we'll be using and the format. But I think that's it's the best way to keep everyone safe at this time.
Okay. So there, on December the 8th, we will have some members online and some members live, is that correct?
Correct. And it's up to the attendees, which format you'd prefer to use that event.
Okay, but we'll still all be voting online?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Duncan?
I'll move the report.
Okay. Seconder, Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Next, we got the service delivery review, which could be very lengthy. Do we need a break before we get into that? Okay. Let's have a 5-minute break.
Mr. Warden,
Go ahead, Bob.
sorry, just before we have our break, now that we've decided we're going to end up with basically a county council meeting for the election, I'm going to suggest, since we're limited in numbers through no fault of our own, we can't have guests and you can't do it properly. Maybe we can tag it on to the council meeting at the end, rather than bring all the staff back again. We have a council meeting that day, do we not?
No.
Thursday.
No. Oh, okay. So it's a Thursday. All right. So that won't work. I was just going to try and save some time and effort for them. On a personal note, I have not been there. My wife is overprotective of me. I would accommodate you in any way, shape, or form, and I do miss you guys. But I have some underlying health issues and that I don't notice, but they are there. So this really does accommodate some old farts like me. So I greatly appreciate what you guys are doing for us. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Bob. All right, we'll have a 5-minute intermission and then we'll get back to the service delivery review. Okay, thanks, Caroline.
There you go.
All right, Julie, let's get on to the service delivery review.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to members of council, the purpose of this report is to provide preliminary recommendations and suggest timelines associated with the recommendations put forward by the consultants who undertook the municipal service delivery review. Council has a critical role in providing direction on the specific outcomes or deliverables that you'd like staff to achieve. And it is recommended that council commit to thoroughly exploring each of the recommendations included in the consultant's report. I suggest, I'll provide a high-level overview, but I think that a number of these items should be discussed in detail as council and staff develop their 2021 action plan for the new year in January. The chart in your agenda package includes a ton of information. It is a lot to sift through and it's a lot to kind of synthesize. So we did our best, and this is just really our first attempt at trying to make sense of how this will roll out over the next 2 years and beyond. So to keep it simple, I'll highlight some of the recommended actions, focusing on some items that are currently underway and the short-term items. So long-term care, it is prudent that council wait to see any provincial changes to policy, budget, even the staffing plan that we're expecting to be released in December, prior to making a decision about a municipal service board, CEO, or divestment or privatization of any of our homes. There are some long-term care home short-term strategies that are currently underway, and this includes an investment in an online recruitment software and investment in digital scheduling software. For corporate services, it's recommended by the consultants that we establish a corporate services department. And I'm recommending to council that we first undertake a review of legal services. And that should happen before council considers establishing another dedicated department. And I think we need some more background information to inform that strategy. So we suggest that the legal organizational review take place in the first quarter, and we'll be able to provide more information to council second quarter 2021. Similarly, it's recommended that prior to establishing a planning department, which is a consultant's recommendation, local municipal partners' needs should be assessed, and we need to have more conversations with our partners to determine what's needed there. So we're hoping to provide a preliminary report to council second quarter of 2021. Another recommendation related to kind of organizational restructure is to move IT into corporate services and eventually transition to a dedicated IT department with a director of IT. So it's recommended that we establish a staff IT committee to discuss, who meets monthly to discuss corporate-wide IT initiatives. As well, IT needs to develop an action plan for 2021 that will resolve some outstanding policies and procedures and kind of creation of manuals that needs to take place before we consider making any organizational changes related to IT. Consultants recommended transferring EMS contract management from the CAO to the fire trainer CEMC. So while it will remain in my portfolio as we undertake the recruitment for the fire training officer, council did consent to this change in reporting relationship in September of 2020. So you can check that box. One thing done. With regard to the consultant's recommendation to explore bringing design in-house for engineering services, the county engineer anticipates being able to bring a report and some recommendations to council second quarter of 2021. Consultants recommend that training manuals be created for IT by IT for any digital tools. And this, again, will be included in the 2021 action plan for the IT department. And this was identified by the consultants as immediate. So we will get working on that right away. The consultants recommend that 1 or 2 software solutions be rolled out each year to streamline manual processes across the organization. There are 2 IT solutions currently being rolled out, and depending on internal resources, we may be in a position to recommend additional digital tools throughout the year, and that will depend on as well on some of the recommendations that are going through the budget committee at this time for additional software. So there could be other solutions that you see. The consultants recommend that we formalize an internal project management structure just to streamline some of our internal processes. And this is something that management team will begin working on immediately, and we'll share the guiding principles for project management structure in the first quarter of 2021. The consultant suggested that IT develop a 3-year digital transformation strategy, and I strongly recommend that we address a number of internal and immediate needs for policy development and other internal departmental concerns prior to taking on a 3-year digital strategy. So we recognize the urgency of undertaking a strategy like this, but there are some pieces we have to put in place before we'll be successful completing a digital transformation strategy. So we expect we'll be able to provide an update to council second quarter of 2021. And once Elgin's IT functionality has improved, the consultants suggest that we begin attracting other local municipal partners and hire a director of IT. And this is a medium-term strategy. And in the meantime, we'll work on developing a stronger partnership and learn more about the City of St. Thomas's operations in order to be able to provide council with more information about how we could support local municipal partners, as well if there are opportunities to partner with the City of St. Thomas in this area. The consultants recommend that a number of actions be taken with our local municipal partners. This includes planning, HR, collaborative procurement, engineering advice, and IT. So I have discussed the service delivery review and next steps with our local municipal partners. We've decided that if not before the end of the year, very early in the new year, we'll have a kickoff meeting that is just about service delivery review. We'll talk about what our timelines and actions could be, how we might prioritize things together. So I was hesitant to get out ahead of our partners and provide any sort of timelines here, save and except for the one key initiative to undertake an independent appraisal for the cost delivery of the road maintenance agreement. I think that is a priority item for council and our local municipal partners. So it is recommended that funds be included in the 2021 budget to support an independent review, and that council take on this review as soon as possible. And we certainly have support from the county engineer to move that forward. So other items related to shared services will be presented to council after I gather some more information from our partner CAOs. And the county engineer has committed to working with our local municipal partners to improve the financial reporting process related to the road maintenance agreement and digitize the quarterly reporting process. Work will be ongoing to improve the processes, technology, training, staffing, skills, development of the land division committee. And this has been identified in the report as immediate, and a number of actions have been taken so far that have positive results. And we expect that some other initiatives will be rolled out in the first and second quarter of 2021, and regular updates will be provided to council. Economic development is another significant undertaking, and this the consultant's report recommends that council consider joining forces with the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation to develop a joint economic development corporation. And this was identified in the report as immediate or short-term. And moving in this direction could have implications on memberships to some of our organizations, depending on if this progresses quickly and in a positive fashion, then it could even have some implications on the Elgin Incentives Program, which is up for renewal at the end of this year. So as a first step, I think we should gather information about governance, finances, structure of the St. Thomas Economic Development Corporation, and share information about our own internal operations with the corporation. And following an analysis, report back to council sometime before second quarter, recognizing that there is perhaps some urgency to make a decision about whether we're interested in pursuing this further or not. So that summarizes kind of the high level recommendations included in the service delivery review, in particular the short, medium term, and those that are already in progress. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have as well. We'd be happy to adjust any of the timelines if you have suggestions for amendments there. And again, I'll just circle back to the fact that this sort of transformation doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take some time to make sure that our plans are solid. A key component of that will be to include recommendations in your action plan, and we'll do so in the staff action plan in January. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Julie, and thank you for putting this in a format that we've taken 110 recommendations and made it fairly concise and understandable, so appreciate that. Questions for Julie on the service delivery review, the timeline?
Through you, Mr. Warden. I can't imagine the amount of work of putting this all together in a format like this, but my question to you, Julie, is each one of these 110 different recommendations from the consultant, as we move through it for second, third quarter, will there be an accompanying financial tracking of where does this fit into our organization, whether it be a positive or a negative, and you know, have that correspond with each one of these recommendations, and that way, you know, we will have a little bit better understanding. And I guess when we break it down a little bit closer, and you get staff involved, that it will break down into are there $3.5 million worth of savings? And I think that will certainly guide us along as to, well, okay, are we better off at the end of the day? So I think that if that's the plan, that there will be, you know, a financial accounting going along with each one of these, that it would give us a comfort level moving forward.
Julie?
Through you, Mr. Warden, to the Deputy Warden, I think that's a great point and something that I planned on working on over the next month, so that council has that information to inform your action planning process. So you can see a number of these initiatives may require some upfront investment, including some digital strategies or training initiatives or organizational restructuring. So I think we do have a responsibility of simplifying for the public what the recommendation is, how much will it cost up front, what are the suggested savings, and then we have to report back to the community how we expect we will achieve those savings, and then eventually what savings did we achieve year over year. So we do have to, I don't know exactly what it looks like, but we will come up with a chart that details and simplifies this information, because otherwise it's a lot to sift through. But council needs, and the public needs, to very quickly be able to see, in order to develop a corporate services department, it's going to cost council $180,000. And the consultant suggested it's going to save X. And how did staff actually manage to find savings through these strategies, and then reporting back on the actual savings at year end and in subsequent years. So we do have that responsibility, and I'm glad you raised that, but we'll prepare it for your action planning meeting.
Okay, thank you, Julie. And some of them have got dollars identified, but some are just simply improving service to the community. And so you won't see a dollar figure on some, but for example, land division, and we've all heard complaints about land division. We can streamline that. You probably won't see necessarily a saving, but the general public will see a great deal of improvement. Any questions for Julie? So it's just a receive and file, Julie? Okay, mover and seconder for the report. Jones, Martin, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. And Julie, you're doing the nomination for Good Roads?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to members of council. This report seeks council's endorsement of Brian Lima's application to the Good Roads Board of Directors for a 2-year term. And while council's endorsement is not required for his nomination package, we felt it was important to have council's support. So certainly it is exciting when we have a staff member who is willing to sit on a board such as Ontario Good Roads. And I wholeheartedly support Brian's interest in pursuing this opportunity.
Okay, thank you, Julie. And certainly I agree with you. I think Brian would be an excellent on the Good Roads Board of Directors. Questions for Julie? Tom?
I think it's a great idea. Certainly thank Brian for stepping up, and be happy to move the report.
Any other questions? We have a mover, seconder, Ketchba, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Now, meeting schedule for 2021, Julie?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. Through you to members of council, each year we bring a draft schedule before council and seek council's feedback on the 2021 meeting schedule. As well, something new this year is the recommendation that County Council direct all committees as much as possible at their first meeting of the new year to develop a meeting schedule for the year, or provide the legislative services team with as much notice as possible. We find, we waste a lot of time trying to send out doodle polls and chase people down for meetings and deal with conflicts. So if people have a schedule for meetings well enough in advance, we hope that there would be few adjustments to that schedule throughout the year. It would also help our team balance work and ensure that we're able to deliver high quality committee and council agenda packages for you. So with that, I'd be happy to make any changes to the proposed schedule.
Okay, thanks, Julie. Julie, you need direction on options in February and in April?
Yes.
Okay. What's your preference here, folks? I'm kind of up either way, so I'm not have any preference on either one, but maybe there's conflicts, so we'll put it up to the floor. Well, we got the draft meetings, and then we have to make some decisions in February and April. So what's your preference? Sally?
Doesn't matter to me, but it's harder to drive in February. That's the only thing I would say, actually.
Julie?
I just note, you have a virtual option, but it may be helpful, since that is peak budget review time, to have the two meetings set up in February. Sometimes it has, over the past 3.5 years that I've been here, felt like a long stretch between the meetings in January. You only have one in February and then again in March when you are trying to approve all budgets. So,
Okay, so you're recommending option 2 in February? Would like that? Okay, what about April?
April, I have put in a placeholder for April 13th. It puts you at the middle of the month rather than your regular schedule would be April 6th and April 20th. Alternatively, we could have those two meetings in April as well if you feel there will be enough business. Based on our activities in 2021, we have had enough volume to support more than our regular schedule of council meetings. So it really is up to council to direct staff on that one.
Well, I would recommend option 1 in April, and certainly you can have a call to the chair, obviously, if you have a lot on the to report. We can change that to having the second meeting. Sally?
Just the only comment I would say is because if we just do the one in April, I would appreciate the 20th. So we don't have Central Elgin the night before and then County the next morning, because those make very long days for Tom and I.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Especially with that added call there yesterday as well.
So option 1 would be in April 20th? So?
That would be my preference, but.
I don't have any issues with that if everybody else is in. Grant?
I think it's probably a good idea because if Julie or the warden at the time decides they need the extra meeting, that you can do it earlier and give that little bit of spacing.
Okay. Any other questions? Duncan?
I have found these scheduled meeting dates, you just give it your best shot because we all know we're going to have conflicts with the schedule. We just don't know what they are yet. So, we work around it the best that we can, but I think it's a good little idea to have a guide. Is there any possible way that when this is set, that we have some kind of mechanism? I know it's great to have it on the iPad here, but that lets me know what is up. But I find it's always kind of nice when Norma has something that she's got on the wall. She can remind me that, no, you can't do that day. You've got a meeting. So is there some kind of mechanism we can put in place that our spouses at least can have something that they know what's going on?
I thought that was supposed to be you communicating to Norma, then she puts it on the calendar.
Yeah.
That's how it works in my household. So,
Have to share your calendar on your phone.
Yeah, well, I find that I work really, really good off paper. So I guess it's something that I'll give her some homework someday to fill out the calendar. And
Julie?
We do a monthly calendar that we post to the website that we'd be happy to send to whoever you would like as well. So if you provided our team with email addresses, and that applies to all counselors, happy to send out our monthly calendar.
Everybody happy with that? Sally?
My only comment about the committees and all, at their first meeting, setting all their dates for the year. Hopefully, are you present at every committee so that you can say, no, so-and-so, that committee have already taken those dates or whatever, just so we're not submitting for the same dates, same time.
Okay. Ed?
procedurally, Mr. Warden, what is more problematic for staff? Scheduling an emergency meeting or canceling a regularly scheduled meeting?
Scheduling an emergency meeting.
Is more problematic? Then why don't we go with the option 2 and schedule 2 meetings in April and cancel one if you wish?
Okay.
Is that easier?
That's great.
Okay.
Suggestion.
that makes sense.
Okay, so option 1 in April.
Option 2 in April.
Option 2, sorry. Option 2 in April. And option 2 in February, and the rest as stands. Everybody happy with that?
Sure.
Okay. Mover and seconder for that report. Jaguar, Martin, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Purcell.
Yes, I unmuted.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Items for consideration, we have two items, Hay-Ho Homes and a letter from the Environmental Committee. We'll deal with number one. Julie, do you want to fill us in on that one?
We'll have Nancy. She's on the line.
Nancy?
Thank you, Mr. Warden. We've received this request from Hay-Ho in consideration for an expansion to the settlement area for, I think this is North Port Talbot, I believe, or it might be Union. Sorry, it's Union. So I think as a committee, as a council, we're going to be receiving a lot of these types of things as the official plan review rolls along. So I asked that if you'd like, I can provide a summary report, I guess you could say, at the next council potentially, just summarizing what we should be doing with these types of requests. If that's amenable to the committee, I can do something like that.
Yeah, I think that's wise to just turn this back to staff and come back with a report in December. Sally?
Yes, this came to Central Elgin Council as well last night because this affects us and our official plan. And we already had some expressions that they don't want to see this. We have a fair area that for residential expansion in Union already. This area is not in our official plan. And it is farmland. And so some had felt that because it's agricultural land and we already have other areas designated that are not agricultural, that we would not like to see this added, or at least some felt that way. It's been referred back to our planning staff to look at as well in our official plan review. So I think it's a bit premature until Central Elgin have had a look at it to determine whether they would even consider it in their official plan. And then they can recommend to the county. That would be my response. But then the county can be told, yes, we'd consider it, or no, we wouldn't.
Okay, and that's fair. I think Central Elgin should have some input prior to the county.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, one of the other things is that a big component of any of these settlement area expansions, we would need that sort of information like the population projection and the land needs assessment. Those are key components to the official plan review to determine A, the status of our settlement areas. Do we have enough land based on our new planning horizons? And B, if we do need to add, where are we adding? So very much so, as Councilor Martin said, it is a bit premature to have a request like this, considering we haven't even started our official plan review, but certainly we can provide our report back to council, which kind of goes over some of these components in order for these requests that we're likely to receive.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. So do you need a motion on that one, Julie, to refer this to staff and in consultation with Central Elgin going forward? Okay, so moved by Martin, secondary Ketchba, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes,
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. We also have a letter from the Environmental Committee. Do you want to deal with that, Grant?
Yes, I can. Thank you, Mr. Warden. I guess it's fairly self-explanatory. Committee mulled over the issue with signs, coroplast signs for reducing speed. It was felt that it would be an environmental issue with landfill and chose to suggest not to use that and possibly use the radar signs that the OPP and a few of the community groups have around the county would be a better use of our resources.
Sally?
Just one other thing that they felt too was that they're becoming more and more signs out there with the yellow and black ones and the CAA ones, et cetera. And they were worried that saturation sometimes has the opposite effect, that if you see too many of them, they mean nothing. So I think that was another idea that supported the fact that they didn't think it was a good idea to do this as a county project.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Duncan?
I think we should buy a fleet of
Police cruisers and stuff them around.
Well, have you ever been on Exeter Road?
Oh, gets me every
I slow down there every time. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
The mattress one.
I always check my speedometer when I see that. And I know it's the same bloody one I've seen 2 weeks before.
Like scaring yourself when you look in the mirror, you know who you are, but.
Anyway, there's a recommendation by the committee. Do we need to adopt that, Julie?
No, you just receive it.
Receive and file? Motion receive, are you?
No, just one more question. I don't, to be honest, I don't think the appetite around the table was to carry on with these signs. So is it a situation that we can put that to bed now, or how is this going to work?
Well, that's my question to Julie is that if we receive and file, the recommendation is to not carry on with the signs.
You can receive the letter from the environmental committee and direct that staff explore alternative speed calming measures for built up areas, such as the increased use of mobile speed counters, signage installed on existing infrastructure, and increased policing.
Okay.
We can continue to bring forward other alternatives to signs.
Okay, everyone satisfied with Julie's recommendation? Okay, mover and seconder for that. Jones and McPhail, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. We have 3 items on correspondence. Anyone wish to make comment? Seeing no burning issues, a motion to receive and file. Jones. Marks, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Other business, statements, inquiries by members. Sally?
I have a couple here, 2 or 3. One, I just wanted to thank Dave and Julie for coming to Central Elgin last night and making the presentation on county updates and the service delivery review. And it did answer, one of our councillors had several questions they'd asked me before. And I said that they would definitely be approached. And I think that, I mean, there was no discussion after you left. Of course, we went right into another delegation, but there was no discussion. I think people received it very well. Warden Mennel has received a letter from the Rural Education Task Force. They are setting up a thought exchange, and that's where they're going to try and engage people in, what do you value about your rural school? Is it more important to have good facilities or the building in your community? Because sometimes those can't be the same thing. And they want as many people as possible to take part in that. So it doesn't just have to be families. It will obviously be distributed through the schools, and it's an online one. And we can certainly, I've got the information here, and I'm sure that Dave does in that letter, and Julie could send that out to everyone. So that the idea is that our local councils would help promote this as well, so that everyone who has children going to rural schools or such has a chance, or not just children, but grandparents or whatever, because sometimes it can be that the grandparent can be more active when it's a local school as a volunteer than they can if it's a consolidated school. So we would encourage you as the Rural Education Task Force to take part in that. All the details, we'll forward the letter that you got to everyone so that you've got all the details as to when and how.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I had one other thing.
okay, Sally, go ahead.
Sorry. December the 17th, Don Leach is retiring from Central Elgin, our CAO. He's been there as CAO for 20 years. He's been involved in Port Stanley and Central Elgin for 32 years. And so we're having a retirement reception for him, COVID permission. We'll see what happens, for Don on December 17th from noon to 5 at the Masonic Center. And if you want to attend, you have to contact Diane Wilson and she will set up a time schedule. So there wouldn't be any more than, so many people in at any one time. And it's like, if some of you you may not have gone to Pat Keenan's because you don't use him as your planner, but we did. And that's how they did it with his. But we're going to do it at the Masonic Center. So it's open, bigger space, but it will be. So if you know Don and you want to attend his retirement on December 17th, contact Diane Wilson. It's just dwilson@centralelgin.org and let her know so that she can set up a time slot and let you know somewhere between noon and 5.
Okay, what's the limitation now that we're in code orange? Is it 10?
No.
50.
Is it not 25?
It was, but I think it's changed with code or orange.
The health unit said that it wasn't going to change. Yeah, the health unit said there weren't many changes with Code Orange.
It stays the same in orange. It changed for those who entered into red, where restrictions are back to limits of 10 and to your own bubble, restaurants closed, curbside pickup. So red comes after orange, and let's hope we avoid that. But for now, gathering sizes remain the same.
Okay, all right. Well, once again, we'll let Diane know if you want to drop in and kind of a schedule like the funeral visitation. You're allowed there between 2 and 2:15.
Yeah, you're in and out.
Anything else, Sally?
No, those were my 3 things.
Okay.
Sorry.
Other statements, inquiries by members?
Mr. Warden, it's Mary.
Go ahead, Mary.
I have a couple of statements. In case council's not aware, we were fortunate last week to get a funding announcement from the province. Our Brown Street Affordable Housing Project is a go. So I'm very excited about that. So that'll be starting fairly quickly. And also I wanted to make mention that our staff have been doing a phenomenal job at advertising Aylmer and other communities in Elgin County through TV ads, radio ads, and all those types of platforms. So I really want to extend my appreciation to all of county staff and council for all your assistance. It's been tough, but these are a couple of good things, and I couldn't be happier. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Mary. I did see the fact that the levels of government were there with the housing initiative on TV, as well as your ad on CTV. I thought it was very, very professionally done. Thanks, Mary. Anything else under statements or inquiries? Notice of motion? There is a matter of urgency. Do we need a motion to deal with that, Julie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you read the motion?
That a report with respect to long-term care home HVAC units and emergency procurement measures undertaken by the warden and CAO be considered as a matter of urgency at today's meeting.
Okay, do we have a mover and seconder to deal with that? Marks and Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail?
Yes.
Councillor Purcell?
Yes.
Councillor Martin?
Yes.
Councillor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Jones?
Yes.
Councillor French?
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer?
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba?
Yes.
Mr. Warden?
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. Hey, Brian, you got a report on HVAC units?
Yes, through you, Mr. Warden, through the County Council. As a result of COVID-19 pandemic, our service contractor that is tasked with maintaining the various HVAC units at each of our homes unfortunately was not able to obtain access into the building given the province's strict personnel restrictions. As a result of the changeover in seasons being from the cooling season into now the winter heating season, the units were recently turned on, and specifically as it pertains to Elgin Manor, 7 of the 14 rooftop HVAC units have issues with them, deficiencies that quite frankly, given their age, are being recommended for replacement. Replacement of parts for those units aren't available in that quantity. And so in order to ensure that our residents are living in appropriate conditions and meeting the required ministry requirements with respect to internal temperatures, replacement units have been ordered. We anticipate delivery of those units later this week, and hopefully all installed by week's end, if not at the very latest at the beginning of the week.
Okay, thank you, Brent.
Just one thing further I wanted to note was that, as previously noted, the funding for these units would be funded through the COVID-19 infection prevention and control funding that was presented earlier today.
Okay, thanks, Brian. And I hope the council consents with this because they've already gone ahead, but Julie has given me, we put our heads together and said, this has to go ahead. We can't delay this. So it's already been forwarded, but we need the consent from council to endorse this. So
I would move the endorsement.
Okay. Grant, did you have a question or?
I could both. It's what's the age? They're about 15 years, right?
Ryan?
18.
18 years.
How long? Okay. It's unfortunate you can't get parts for them, but it is what it is. Can't do much about it. So I would second.
Any other, Dominique?
What's the amount?
Ryan?
Total required quotation and investment is 68,000 and change plus HST.
Thank you.
Okay. Moved by Martin, second by Jones. All in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Just one more question.
Oh, go ahead.
Are we replacing all of them or just the deficient ones?
Just 7 of the deficient ones, being a total of 7 of the 14 total units that service the building. So 7.
So that still leaves another 7 on life support that we'll probably going to have to deal with
Next year.
probably in the near future, probably the next season's changeover. So, okay. Wait for the other shoe to drop.
Well, fortunately, we got COVID funding to cover these things.
I'm in favor.
We got a mover and seconder, Julie.
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Anything else before we move into closed? We need a motion mover and seconder for the following reasons. Number 1, Municipal Act Section 239-2B, personnel matter, but identify individual, including municipal and local board employee. D, labor relation or employee negotiations seeking update mandate for collective bargaining with the Ontario Nurses Association. 2, county solicitor, municipal section 239-2, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting municipalities or local boards, proceedings before the Ontario Energy Board, verbal report. 3, Municipal Act 239-2E, litigation or potential litigation, including matters before administrative tribunals affecting the municipality or local boards. F, advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Fillmore Bridge, verbal. 4, Chief Administrative Officer, Municipal Act 239-2K, position plan, procedural criteria, or instruction to be applied to any negotiations carried on or to be carried on by municipal staff or local boards, Medivie EMS, Elgin, Ontario, on contract renewal, verbal report. Number 5, Chief Administrative Officer, Municipal Act 239-2B, personnel matter about identified individual, including municipal or local board employees. D, labor relations or employee negotiations, organizational review, also verbal report. So moving to mover and seconder, move into close to deal with these. Ketchba. Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French. Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you.
By Jones, seconded by Ketchba. Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French. Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Okay. Let me know when you're ready, Caroline, and open. You're good? Okay. All right. On the closed meeting agenda, number 1, Julie?
For closed meeting, item number 1, which is seeking updated mandate for collective bargaining with Ontario Nurses Association, be it resolved that staff proceed as directed.
No, mover and seconder. Jones. McPhail, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks. Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Item number 2.
Closed meeting, item number 2, which is proceedings before the Ontario Energy Board. Be it resolved that the verbal report from the county solicitor be received and that staff proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder. Marks. Martin, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Item 3.
Closed meeting, item number 3, Fillmore Bridge. Be it resolved that the verbal report from the county solicitor be received and that staff proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder. Martin. Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Item 4.
Closed meeting, item number 4, Medivie EMS Elgin, Ontario, contract renewal. Be it resolved that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received and that staff proceed as directed.
Mover and seconder. McPhail. Ketchba, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Number 5.
Item number 5, organizational review. Be it resolved that the report from the Chief Administrative Officer be received and that staff proceed as directed.
Thank you. Mover and seconder. Jiguer. Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Seconder for recommendations, committee of the whole. Marks. Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Okay, bylaws.
Get a first, second, and third read of bylaw 20-58. The bylaw to authorize speed limits.
Mover and seconder. Martin, Ketchba, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. Next one, Julie.
Be it a first, second, and third read of bylaw 20-59, being a bylaw to temporarily amend bylaw 19-41 as a bylaw regulating the proceedings in the municipal council of the corporation of the county of Elgin as relating to the election and appointment of warden for the 2020-2021 term.
Mover and seconder. Jones and Jiguer, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Counselor Purcell.
Yes.
Counselor Martin.
Yes.
Counselor Marks.
Yes.
Counselor Jones.
Yes.
Counselor French.
Yes.
Counselor Jiguer.
Yes.
Counselor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Thank you. And the last one.
Get a first, second, and third read of bylaw 20-60, being a bylaw to confirm proceedings of the municipal council of the corporation of the county of Elgin at the November 24th, 2020 meeting.
Mover and seconder. Marks, McPhail, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes.
9-0, the motion is carried.
Anything else before adjournment, Julie? Okay, motion to adjourn. Marks. Jones, all in favor?
Deputy Warden McPhail.
Yes.
Councillor Purcell.
Yes.
Councillor Martin.
Yes.
Councillor Marks.
Yes.
Councillor Jones.
Yes.
Councillor French.
Yes.
Councillor Jiguer.
Yes.
Councillor Ketchba.
Yes.
Mr. Warden.
Yes,
9-0, the motion is carried.
thank you. I want to get a picture of the goodie bag, so don't take it until I get a picture of it, and then everybody can